In today's video, we are going to talk about the telogen phase of the hair growth cycle. What if I told you that there is a certain phase of the hair growth cycle that most women who suffer from balding and thinning and different forms of alopecia are stuck in? And it is by you not understanding this phase of the hair growth cycle or how to treat your hair during this phase of the hair growth cycle that leads to massive balding and different scalp disorders like telogen effluvium, seborrheic dermatitis, and so many different forms of alopecia that are induced by stress. So if you've been searching for the content that is going to give you the answers that you've been looking for to answer the questions on why you're not able to retain length or why your hair just isn't growing, then stick around to the end of this video because I have every answer that you need and solutions. Before we get started, make sure you go ahead and subscribe here to my channel and then click on that bell notification so you're notified every single time I post another video. There are different phases of the hair growth cycle, and today in this video we're talking about the final stage. But so you're not confused, make sure you go watch this video and this video, links in the description box below, so you can know exactly how the natural hair growth cycle works. But last phase, telogen phase. So the telogen phase is the resting phase of the hair growth cycle, and it is the phase of the hair growth cycle where your hair is not growing anymore, but your hair is also not detaching itself, it's not shedding, it's not doing anything, it's just resting. Now, this is a process that is not long lasting, and only about 5 to 10% of your follicles are in this stage at one time, as long as you have a healthy hair growth cycle. Again, in this phase, the hair follicle is resting. It is not producing any new hair growth cells, nor is it detaching itself from the blood supply. It's just resting. Now, this phase of the hair growth cycle is the exact opposite of what's happening through the anagen phase of the hair growth cycle. The anagen phase is the phase where your follicle is producing new hair growth cells. In this phase, we taking a nap. Now remember, the existing hair is held in place. In the telogen phase, your hair is not falling out. The existing hair is still anchored in to the hair's follicle attached to the blood supply, but it's just not actively elongating itself. It's not actively growing at all, but it ain't falling out. Now this stage is a little longer than some other stages because the natural telogen phase of the hair growth cycle could last about 3 to 4 months. So if we're talking about a 12-month hair growth cycle, if we're talking about your hair growth in a year, 3 to 4 months out of the year, your hair in a healthy hair growth cycle is not going to be growing 3 to 4 months out of each year. Now, the duration of the telogen phase of your hair growth cycle can be due to a lot of different factors like genetics, and we talked about genetics. Check the video in the description box below if you want to hear me go a little bit deeper into genetics and how they play a role in healthcare and hair care. Your diet, your age, the environment, and just your overall habits can have an effect on the amount of time that your hair is in the resting phase of the hair growth cycle, the telogen phase. Now, the telogen phase kind of has a two-part to it because we have the telogen phase, which is the resting phase, and sometimes it just depends on like what type of scientist you're learning from or whatever. Some people group the telogen phase and the exogen phase into one, and some break them up. I kind of think that they should be broken up because with telogen you're resting, and with the exogen phase it's exactly what it sounds like. The hair is leaving, the hair is follicle. Remember, in the telogen phase the hair is not leaving. So if you're a person who is stuck in the telogen phase of the hair growth cycle, that does not mean that your hair is automatically falling out. That could just mean that due to some practices that you have, which we'll talk about in a second, your hair is stuck in that phase where it's not growing. But if your practices keep going, then the hair will keep going on that hair growth cycle and then go ahead into the exogen phase where hair that wasn't supposed to fall out actually does. But I'm gonna get there in a minute. Shedding is not incorporated into the telogen phase, but the exogen phase of the hair growth cycle. So if your hair is shedding a lot, shedding is nothing to be super like stressed about because it's a natural thing. It's something that's supposed to happen. But if you're noticing that your hair is shedding a lot to the point where you're seeing balding and things of that nature, then you may have a problem where more than the percentage of your hair follicles that are supposed to be in the estrogen phase are in the exogen phase, so you're going bald, right? But this is how the estrogen phase goes. Towards the end of the telogen phase of your hair growth cycle, the exogen phase happens. So that's why technically the telogen phase and the estrogen phase are like one and the same, because the estrogen phase happens at the end of the telogen phase, right before the hair growth cycle goes back to the anagen phase again, where it's producing new hair growth cells. I know it's confusing, but this is how it goes. During the estrogen phase of the hair growth cycle, old hairs are pushed out of the hair follicle by the new hair that is making its way up through the hair follicle, soon to pierce the skin as a new hair shaft that is going to replace the one that just fell out. So this is why whenever people are like, oh my god, my hair is shedding, what am I gonna do? It's like, your hair shedding is a good thing. Most likely, if you're noticing more shedding than normal, most likely if you have a natural hair growth cycle, you are in that estrogen phase of the hair growth cycle, and it doesn't last long at all, only a couple of weeks, as long as it's healthy. The telogen phase of the hair growth cycle lasts anywhere from 3 to 4 months. So the end of those 4 months is when the estrogen phase happens. It's not an extra couple of months. It's the end of that 3rd month or the end of that 4th month that the hair begins to shed. It's not just happening the whole time. Remember, this shedding is a natural and ongoing process. So if you are online and you are looking for something to stop shedding, if you are online and looking for a way to stop the shedding that's happening naturally in your hair, if there is a product that tells you that it's gonna stop the shedding forever, like, is propaganda, because there's no stopping the estrogen phase of the hair growth cycle. But there are things that you do and habits and patterns that you have that cause you to be in the estrogen phase and in the telogen phase way longer than you're supposed to, which in return causes you to lose way more hair than you're really supposed to during those phases. So now that we know what the telogen phase and what the anagen phase is, let's get into some of the things that cause that phase to be longer and the things that you can do to shorten it back up and make it regular schmegular. So remember, only a certain percentage of your hair's follicles are even in the telogen phase to begin with. Only about 5 to 10% for a regular healthy hair growth cycle, right? Something that's not induced by blocked hair follicles, overload of products and things of that nature. A normal, natural, regular hair growth cycle. So let's get into some of the things that can cause them. Number one is going to be environmental factors. The duration of the telogen phase can be influenced from internal and external sources. Stress, hormonal changes, nutritional deficiencies like problems with the microbiome, like we talk about in this video, issues with IBS. If you're a person who deals with IBS or PCOS, these are all different things that deal with your digestive tract, which in return will cause stress. And if any type of stress is caused within the body in any way, shape, or form, you induce the telogen phase of the hair growth cycle, because the telogen phase of the hair growth cycle is induced by stress from external sources, stress from your job, your work. If you have any type of medical conditions or anything, any illnesses or diseases that your body is internally fighting off, goes into stress being caused to the human body. And if the body is put under a lot of stress, it can send you into the telogen phase of the hair growth cycle. And if the habits and patterns aren't changed, then this is something that can really mess people up. But see, something that confuses people, and it's something that really confused me too at first, when we're talking about the telogen phase of the hair growth cycle and it being induced by stress and all of that, the first thing you think of is like, okay, I had stress this day and this time, I was stressed this month, so then my hair is gonna fall out. Like if I get stressed out, if I lose my job on Monday, then the next week my hair is falling out. It doesn't work like that. When we're talking about telogen effluvium and stuff like that, normally it shows up 3 to 4 months after the thing that caused the stress has already happened. So if you lose your job in January, you're not really gonna start seeing your hair fall out until like April. And that is just simply how it goes, because that is how the body works. Even though products and social media gives people the impression that hair is instant and the body's instant, is not. like your body needs time. Like there's a time lapse. Thank God there's a time lapse, because if not, you wouldn't have time to go back in and fix things, right? Now, while this phase seems like super uneventful, it seems like, why in the world do I even need a phase of the hair growth cycle where my hair is not growing? Well, you really do, because the average human hair growth cycle lasts anywhere between 2 and 7 years. That means for 2 to 7 years, your hair is just like constantly growing. The follicle is constantly producing new hair growth cells, detaching itself from the follicle, reattaching. Not to mention, all of your follicles are independent. So you have 100,000 follicles, and each follicle has anywhere between 1 to 4 strands, and each individual strand has its own hair growth cycle, its own hair growth phase. I know it's crazy, right? But think about it. You have, if the average person has 100,000 follicles and 1 to 4 strands, that means that the average person has over 100,000 to 400,000 different hair growth cycles, different hair growth phases going on simultaneously on their scalp at one time. So this is why it is so imperative that you learn the science of the human body. Products and tools and stuff, that's not gonna do it. You need to learn your body, learn the science of the human body, learn what phase of the human hair growth cycle you are in, so you can figure out what to do with your body, right? You can figure out what products you are supposed to use, what styles you should and shouldn't do, and all of that. These are things that are really, really easy for you to figure out if you just simply put everything like in order, all right, in place. So really hope that makes sense. Remember the shedding process is normal. It allows the hair's follicle to make room for new hair. But one of the main problems that we have, because we don't understand how our hair grows, we don't know that everybody's hair grows. And because we don't know that everybody's hair grows, we hold on to every little piece of hair that we have, thinking that we're helping, but in reality, you're really preventing new hairs from growing by filling the follicles up with oils and butters and things of that nature. You actually slow down the body's natural patterns, the body's natural cycles, right? If you have 3 to 4 months out of each year that your hair follicle is going to be pushing out the old hair so the new hair can come up, just, it's not a rhetorical question. Let me know in the comments what you filling the follicle up with petroleum does to aid your follicle in releasing one piece of hair so a new hair can come up. If you're blocking the follicle and greasing the scalp, you're not helping at all. There is nothing aiding. There is nothing like that helps to aid the hair on coming out of the follicle by you putting a petroleum that blocks the follicle on top of it. It really doesn't make sense. It's an oxymoron when you really think about it, right? It's two things working against each other. This is why most women with curly hair who have practices of like putting oils and butters and things of that nature in their scalp, this is why the hair growth cycle is a lot slower. This is why you notice one group of women's hair grows a lot slower than everybody else's, right? There are people who get confused because they're like, oh, my auntie used grease, but it was fine. You have to think about it. That was going towards retention. That was going towards retention, and they were able to retain length because of petroleum. But right now, as a licensed cosmetologist that has switched over through Simple Apothecary, and now I do consulting and a lot of other things, the majority of my clients are in their late 40s, early 50s, dealing with things like seborrheic dermatitis, CCCA, and so many different forms of alopecia that all of them, when we find the root cause is always grease in the scalp. And my clients are women who are in their 50s that are accountable, that say, you know what, you're right, let me go ahead and stop it. And almost every single time, not almost every single time across the board, when they actually stop those practices and begin doing and introducing the new ones that we talk about via consultation, they get changes right away. Hopefully I can put one up here on the screen. Again, only a certain amount of the follicles are in the telogen phase at one given time, and if you induce stress on the body, you end up causing more of those follicles to go into the telogen phase, and as a result you'll see your hair getting thinner, and it may appear like your hair is falling out or it's going bald, but you're not really going bald, especially if you're a person who's not feeling any burning or tingling or excessive itching. You're just noticing your hair is getting thinner. You are stuck in the telogen phase of the hair growth cycle. Different hormonal fluctuations like pregnancy, different sicknesses, different illnesses, different cancers, going through the change, menopause is a really big one. A lot of women that go through menopause experience excessive telogen effluvium, and you think that the balding is coming from an external source, so you pile the follicle full of products. But in reality, if you just changed around your diets and your habits and lowered the amount of cortisol being released in your body from stress, then you can drastically reduce the amount of hair that you're losing, and you could really reduce the amount that your hair is in telogen effluvium. One of my favorite herbs on dealing with telogen effluvium is my red now chamomile. It's with chamomile and red raspberry leaf. It is so freaking amazing. This is one of the best herbs that you can drink as it pertains to lowering stress. And by ingesting this tea on a regular basis and making this a part of your diet, a part of your everyday, what you end up doing is directly affecting the amount of cortisol that is being released in the body, and you are drastically decreasing the amount of stress that the body is in, which in return gets the follicle out of telogen effluvium. The more you release, the more you reduce stress, the better. Another really good one is my berry booster, because the berry booster is full of a bunch of different herbs that do the same exact thing, reducing those cortisol levels. And also supplemento that is in the berry booster, also my supplemento extract. The supplemento extract is amazing. My supplemento extract is freaking amazing because the supplemento extract goes into the body and it helps you to lower those levels of DHT within the body. So if you are a person who is dealing with balding from different forms of alopecia that are caused on or induced by the elevation of hormones that are being released into the body, DHT, this is going to lower it. I freaking love supplemento, and with this simple apothecary you can get your hands on it. Just a little bit goes a very long way. Make sure you check the link in the description box. Make sure you check the link in the description box below so you can read more on my blog post on extracts. Also have neem extract, cat's claw extract, which is amazing for muscle relaxation and different pain from arthritis and things of that nature. We also have black cumin seed extract, along with my old faithful, our top seller, our blue butterfly pea flower extract. Freaking amazing. A little bit goes a very long way. Extremely concentrated, guys, and it really will help to lower those cortisol levels to get you out of telogen effluvium so your hair can stop thinning out. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about this, if you want to see way more details, then make sure you click the link in the description box below. Now, this next and last part, a lot of people are not going to want to hear. That's why I tried to give y'all like some gifts and come bear gifts before I said something. So when we are talking about the causes of telogen effluvium, a lot of the things that people do, a lot of the things that women with naturally curly hair do lead to the telogen effluvium, which slows down the hair growth cycle. I'm going to name a couple of things. If you don't agree, then I don't really care, because facts are facts. So the very first thing is going to be greasing and oiling the scalp. This drastically slows down the body's hair growth cycle because it slows down the rate which in the hair's follicle is able to absorb oxygen. And when the follicle has to work harder to breathe, when it has to work harder to do anything, it's stressed out. And when stress is induced, it slows down the natural hair growth cycle. And by naturally doing that, you end up causing telogen effluvium. And when you think about it, from a very young age, women are starting off greasing their daughters' scalps with heavy petroleum based oils and butters. You start off putting your daughter's hair in really tight twisties and barrettes and ponytails and things of that nature, which in return cause stress to the follicle over time. Remember, when your baby is little, this is your baby's their follicle's very first hair growth cycle. Remember, the very first hair growth cycle is from age 0 to 7. I mean, the natural hair growth cycle is anywhere from 6 to 7 years, right? So if you're at 4 to 7 years, so if the first 4 to 7 years of your daughter's life is her first hair growth cycle. So if as soon as her hair is tight enough to put, or long enough to put in a ponytail, you gripping it tight, then naturally you're slowing down your daughter's hair growth cycle. Naturally, your daughter's hair growth cycle is going to move slower than her peers who do not have their hair in tight twisties and ponytails and rubber bands and all of that. These are things to think about, right? Just take out emotion, just looking at the facts. Also, if you're a person who does crochet styles all the time, or like, these are extensions in my head, but there is a certain process to wear extensions. The only reason that extensions are bad is because people don't do them right. They don't use the proper patterns to put extensions in. They don't take them out the proper way, and then they leave them in too long. So those things collectively together, they cause habits that set the type of environment on the scalp that causes stress to the follicle, which in return sends you into what? Say it with me in the comments: telogen effluvium. All right, so really be cautious of that. Just because I know it's like a myth that people think that just because black people have curlier hair that their hair can do all of this stuff. The only thing that's different is our styles can just last a little longer because you don't have to wash your hair as often, but you still need to wash it, right? So there are so many different things that go into this. If you want a habit, a really good habit, if you need help setting a really good habit for your everyday life, for your hair growth cycle, again, then make sure you click the link in the description box below and join my 7-day challenge. Now we have officially partnered with Sizzle, so now I am able to give it to you with 4 payments with my 7-day challenge. And instead of you purchasing it and paying everything all at one time, you can break it up into 4 payments. So click the link in the description box below, add everything to your cart, but you must go to checkout. Go to the checkout, go to your checkout page, and right as you're adding your credit card information, just slide down, don't add the credit card information, and look for the Sizzle icon. Click on that, follow the directions on the screen, boom, you're in the 7-day challenge. All right, love you guys so much. Remember, you guys have a couple of resources that you can do, and by you just simply limiting the amount of tension, product buildup, stress in your everyday life, all of these things all go into slowing down the natural hair growth cycle. So look at all of these things at their core, make some changes, and I can guarantee you, look at some of the people on the screen. When you make these changes, you will see a really aggressive change within your hair, skin, nails, gut health, and your overall wellness. I love you guys so much. Make sure you check the links in the description box below. I hope you like this series on the hair growth cycle. See you later.